What's up, nerds and nerdettes and wee little nerdlings all? It's your buddy Big Johnny G, the Two Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming. Another Tuesday, another Tabletop Takeout. Now, I don't usually do what I'm doing back to back, 1 week after the other. But I really felt like I needed to this time, even though there's so many other things I want to get to on this show. But I only have one episode at a time a week to do things. So last week you saw me give you a lowdown on everything you need to know for the Green Goblin scenario. Well, not quite everything. There's actually 2 scenarios in there, and I only had time to cover Risky Business. So now, we're not wasting the time. I'm not doing any introductions or telling you to subscribe or any of that crap. No, it is time to just get down to the table right now, and let's talk about the other scenario, Mutagen Formula. I'll see you down there. Marvel champions the card game, the Green Goblin Scenario Pack. Now, we've already spoken about one of the 2 scenarios that come with this pack, one of the 2 adventures, the Risky Business. Now it's time to move on and talk about the second one, the Mutagen Formula. Now, the first thing I got to say right off the bat about this one, before we even get into looking at the cards and discussing them one at a time here, is overall just talking about the fact that this is probably the most maniacal case of minions I have ever seen. Now, Ultron had a lot of drones that kept coming out, and there's a little bit of a similarity between that and this, but this is dependent on the thralls and the minions that the Goblin is creating with his formula, and it is just going to be a madhouse of effects. The side schemes seem to be even more dangerous than the rest of them have been so far in the series of this game. And I say that because much of the time the side schemes have to do with promoting more minions and more minion attacks on the heroes. And a lot of times these are locked in, and you're going to have to deal with them first before you're even allowed to move on to the main scheme. And it's just another case of this card set manipulating minions and thralls against you in a constant wave. Just as we've seen, as I mentioned already, with a similarity between the Ultron pack, this is starting the game off right from the bat, as you're going to see, with minions on the table engaged with the heroes. So it's starting off with an explosion, okay, right away. And I just got to warn you also that with some of the cards, you may not always be protected in your alter ego form. Yeah, that's a pretty big warning. Now, I'm also going to end off talking about 2 of the encounter sets that come with this game. 4 come with the game. I spoke about the other 2 in the previous one, Risky Business, and I'll be talking about A Mess of Things and Power Drain here at the end of this video. But let's jump in. Now that I spoke a little piece and I told you what to expect, I want to jump right into examining these cards. Unlike Risky Business, where we actually got to see a flip villain card, one that had the alter ego on the other side for Norman Osborn, with this set we return to the traditional villain card. There is no flip side, there is no Norman Osborn side. It is just Green Goblin 1, 2, and 3. Now he's going to be starting off with a 1 scheme and 2 attack, but that attack has a forced response. That after Green Goblin attacks and damages you, then a threat is going to be placed on the main scheme. Yeah, you heard me right. You get attacked and damaged, it's going to add to the scheming. Now, with the second level of the Green Goblin, we see that scheming go up to 2, evening them both out for 2 with that in the attack. We also see the same forced response that we saw with Goblin 1. However, we're also going to see that 2 additional encounter cards are going to have to be dealt to each player. That's right, 2 additional encounter cards to you and each hero active in this game. Now, with the third Green Goblin, we're going to see the attack go up in this case. So with a scheme of 2 and attack of 3. Now, in this case, he still has the same forced response. That's going to add on to the threat on the main scheme if you are damaged by the Green Goblin. But now the stakes are raised even further, as 2 threat are going to be placed when that happens. And when he is first revealed at his 3rd level, 3 encounter cards each for the heroes are going to have to be dealt. So the progression here is a bit horrible for the players, I think. The scheme for the Green Goblin in this case is broken into 2 parts. The first part, Unleash the Mutagen, and the second part, the Mutagen Cloud. With the first part of Unleashing the Mutagen, this is what we're going to see start the game off. And at the very start of the game, this is going to put a Goblin Thrall minion into play, engaged with each of the heroes at the table. So the game is starting off right in the middle of combat. If you want to picture it that way, you open up the comic book, and the first panel of the first page, the fight has already started. Now, usually you would think that there is some sort of sense of completion, accomplishment, once you have finished the scheme. But in this case, when you finish the first part of the scheme, Unleashing the Mutagen, you've just opened up a can of worms for yourself. Because when you complete it, then each hero engaged in this game session is going to have to draw 3 cards from the encounter deck. And the first card that they draw of those 3 that is a Goblin minion, they have to put in play engaged with them. Yeah, it's like you're being punished just for ending the first part of his scheme. Now, the first part of the scheme was also made tough enough because there's an acceleration marker on the scheme, which means that for every hero engaged in this gaming session, that there's going to be another acceleration token added to the damn scheming and plotting here. And this increases with the second part, the Mutagen Cloud, where it increases by the number of active goblins in play. And that includes the Green Goblin himself. So the Green Goblin plus any and all of his thralls, minions, and soldiers, anything with the Goblin name on it is going to add to the acceleration. This is insanity! Now, there are 3 attachments that you're going to have to be aware of and be very careful of when they, I was going to say if, but when they come out to play. So, the first one is the Goblin Glider. So this is going to attach, not necessarily, but probably, to the Green Goblin, because it will attach to the enemy that has the highest printed hit points. So it's pretty much going to be Green Goblin most of the time. But this is going to add a +1, a permanent +1 attack to that villain until this card is destroyed. And the only way to do that is for a hero to spend 2 energy resources to do that. Now, the second of these attachments is simply called Hysteria. Now, when this is attached, it is attached specifically to the Green Goblin himself. And what this is going to do is for both his scheme and his attack, it is going to add an additional boost card. So you could get lucky and maybe the additional boost card will be nothing. Maybe it'll be 3. And this is on top of whatever the first boost card was that you drew during the attack or the scheme. And third, this rounds out with his Pumpkin Bombs. Now, this is also as a forced response tied directly to the attack. So what this does is when the villain attacks you, you discard the Pumpkin Bombs, and it's going to cause that hero 2 additional indirect damage. 3 cards that are so perfectly Green Goblin, and they will work to destroy you if you're not careful. Of the many minion cards in this Green Goblin deck, the Goblin Thrall is the most numerous, coming in with 6 cards. Now, it only does 1 and 1 for its scheme and its attack. It only has 3 health. But what makes this a real bastard of a card is its guard ability. So there are 6 of them. That's a lot of guarding, potentially, that could come out or continue to keep coming out in small little drips during the course of your game, making it tougher and tougher to concentrate on the Green Goblin himself. Goblin Soldiers are the next most numerous cards in the deck, with 4 for these minions. They also have a 1 and 1. They have 5 health. Their main special ability is that when they are defeated, that they're going to deal 1 damage to the engaged player themselves. Now, both of these, the Goblin Thrall and the Goblin Soldier, both come in with a boost ability that if they are drawn as a boost card, they are going to be put directly engaged in combat with that hero. Now, there are 2 unique minions in this Green Goblin deck, one of them being the Goblin Knight. This is the healthiest at 7 hit points and has a 2 in both scheme and attack. Now, this guy is made a little more dangerous because when he attacks you, you're going to discard 1 card from the encounter deck, and if that card happens to be a Goblin minion, then it's going to be put in play directly against you. Ouch. The other unique Goblin minion is simply called Monster. With 6 health, comes in with only 1 scheme but 3 attack. That isn't necessarily what makes this a monster. It's the fact that when it's revealed, you're going to be stunned. If you're already stunned, you're going to take 2 damage. Now, both the Monster and the Goblin Knight, after they are activated, if they have been drawn as boost cards, then they're going to be shuffled back into the deck. So they are both 2-point boost cards, and they're going to go right back into the deck for another possibility of coming out for more boost or onto the battlefield themselves. Let's take a quick look at the side schemes that you're going to have to be facing with this deck. There are 5 side scheme cards broken up into 3 categories. The standalone card is Goblin Nation. Now, one thing I don't like about this card is that even if you draw it as a boost, it's going to go directly into play as if you drew it as an encounter card. And what it does is, once it is in play, then any enemy that has the word Goblin, including the Green Goblin, all get a +1 to their attack. The 2 side schemes of Goblin Reinforcements are not only going to add an extra encounter card each time that comes up, but it's also going to add an additional threat for each Goblin minion in play that's going to be put directly onto that side scheme. Now, the final 2 side schemes here, Overrun, are going to add 2 acceleration tokens to the scheming. And on top of that, when this card, when the Overrun side scheme card itself is defeated, then each player is going to have to discard 2 cards from the top of the encounter deck and put each, if any of them that are Goblin minions, into play directly engaged with them. As you see, this game is just geared toward putting more and more minions in the field constantly. The treachery cards in this deck do not make things any easier. There are 2 called Death from Above. Now, when this comes into play, it will be determined whether the players are in their alter ego form or their hero form. And it's the same effect for each, whether it is on the scheming for alter ego or for the attack if it's on the hero. And that is that the Green Goblin is going to do X amount, where X equals his stage. So if it's Green Goblin 1, then it'll be 1 point. If it's Green Goblin level 2, 2 points, and Green Goblin level 3, 18 points. No, you're right, 3 points. Now, there are also 2 for Wicked Ambition. Now, when this card is revealed, you players are going to have to discard a number of cards from the encounter deck that are going to equal to double the villain's stage number. Double the stage number. And for each and every goblin minion discarded, they're going to have to choose to either take 3 damage or put that minion into play with them. Now, there's one card for Overconfidence. This is also divided between whether the players have their characters in Alter Ego mode or Hero mode. So with Alter Ego, it will affect Scheme, and with Hero, it will affect Attack. And what this does is it will cause a scheme or an attack. But if either of them do 3 or more, 3 threat or 3 damage or more by the activation of this card, then it's going to gain Surge. You're going to have to draw another card and see what that effect is as well. Now, the last treachery card is the one you are going to despise the most, I think. Because this is an attack card. But this isn't just any attack. This card, called I See You, is exactly that. And even if your character is in their alter ego form, you can still get attacked. The difference here with this is, if you are in alter ego form, then it just won't get a boost card. But yes, this card, I See You, will allow the Green Goblin to get an attack on your hero when they're in their civilian, their alter ego form. Ouch! Now to take a quick look at 2 of the encounter decks that come with this. The other 2 we had already looked at in Risky Business, so I'd like to take a look at a Mess of Things and Power Drain here. Now, Mess of Things brings in Scorpion. Besides Green Goblin, one of Peter Parker's deadliest Spider-Man foes. It starts with his side scheme called a Mess of Things. This side scheme is going to add an extra encounter card to that phase, but it's also, when revealed, it's also going to add another effect if anyone is stunned. So you're going to be placing 2 additional threat on that side scheme, actually for each and any player that happens to be stunned when this card comes into play. Now, we get to see the Scorpion himself, who has a 3/3 with 7 health, so he's no pushover. And he hits you without you even knowing about it because of the Quick Strike ability, and this is going to allow him to engage your hero with an attack the second it becomes engaged with you. It will not have to wait for the villain phase to get its attack in on you. But that's not it! Because after Scorpion attacks and damages a hero, then that hero is going to gain the stun effect. Oh, man. We see one of the Gang Up Treachery cards, which is going to allow, if you are in hero mode, it is going to allow Scorpion and, well, any villain and minions engaged with you to all get an attack on you. If you happen to be in your alter ego form, then it's just going to gain a surge. Now, his last 2 treachery cards are going to annoy you about as much as the Green Goblins did with his I See You. Because with Tail Sweep, the Scorpion is going to gain an attack on your hero. But if no attack was able to be made in that way, then you're stunned. So if you're in your alter ego form, no attack can be made. So therefore your alter ego form is still getting stunned. And if these tail swipe cards come out as boosts, you're still going to get stunned. Besides doing some nice damage to you at its base with 3 damage, the Scorpion and his Mess of Things deck do literally make a mess of things because they're so heavy about stunning. Now with the Power Drain encounter set, we see another of Peter Parker's longtime deadly nemesis appear, and that's Electro. Now when Power Drain side scheme comes into play, it's going to add an acceleration token to the scheming that's going on. But it's also going to have an effect when the card is defeated. the players are going to discard 2 cards from the encounter deck. Now, each player is going to have to choose and discard 1 resource of any type from their hand for each of the boost icons that are discarded in this fashion. Now, Electro himself has 6 health, and he's coming in here with a 2/2 on his scheme and his attack. His 2-point attack does have a forced response on it. So after Electro attacks you, it doesn't say deals damage to you, it says attacks you. You are going to have to discard 1 card from the encounter deck, and then you're going to take 1 indirect damage for each boost icon discarded in this fashion. So it's like a static electricity or something all over the place that's still damaging you, I guess. Now, it has a boost effect that's going to discard 3 cards from the encounter deck. The 3 treachery cards that Electro has start off with the Electromagnetic Pulse. When this card comes out, the player is going to have to discard 7 cards from the top of the encounter deck. Now, if any one of those cards that is discarded is Electro, then he is going to be put into play directly engaged with you. Now, if Electro wasn't discarded this way, the card's going to gain surge. So if he was already out in play or just didn't come out with this, there's still going to be another surge with this card. Lightning Bolt, another treachery attack he has, is going to cause the players to discard 2 cards from the encounter deck. And they're going to end up having to take 1 indirect damage for each of the boost icons that they find on those cards that they discarded in that fashion. And the final treachery card that Electro has in this deck is called Shock Therapy, and it is that for him anyway. Because when this card comes out, a number of encounter cards equal to the number of heroes in play are going to have to be discarded. And the villain is going to get a chance to heal 1 damage for each and every boost icon that is discarded in that fashion from those cards. Just making it harder to keep a bad man down. So those are the cards that you're going to have to go up against, that you are going to have to prepare for in your encounter with the Green Goblin and his mutagen formula. So I wish you luck, because it's a lot harder, I think, than risky business. So thank you for checking this out. I'm your buddy Big John at G for 2 Gun Picket presents Legendary Gaming, and I am out of here.